Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the regional user group, kind of hosted by a group of us, Michigan, Indiana, Iowa, Illinois. I think we've got some attendees from all sorts of other groups. The session should be letting everybody in here. We'll start everybody out on mute. If you do have a question, put it in the question box or raise your hand. I'll try and keep an eye on that, but I'm kind of looking at 3 different screens to managing the meeting, so bear with me and we'll get there. I'm going to turn things over to Calvin and I'll shut my webcam off and mute myself. But like I said, I'll keep an eye on questions. If anything comes up, just put them in there. Also, if you've got questions for the Stump the Chump session, let me know. Just put those into questions and we'll pull those into the last session there. So welcome, and Calvin, we'll turn it over to you.
Awesome, that sounds great. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully everybody can see me and hear me. Again, like Fred said, if you have any problems, just go ahead and throw it into the question or the chat and we'll go ahead and see it there. Again, for the Stump the Chump, just go ahead and throw those into the chat system and I'll grab those, and I'll be kind of like we've done in the past year, just collecting any questions that kind of are a little off topic or more for Stump the Chump, and I'll just put them into the presentation as I build it for this afternoon. Kind of recapping what we did for year 2021 when we took this kind of post-COVID and virtualized the meeting. We ended up with 284 registrations in February, 313 in May. August went down to 245 and November is down to 243. So it looks like we're going to be somewhere in the 240s. There was a question that was thrown out, are we going to merge or try and join with the Wisconsin group? Since we are under the 500 limit at this, they're around 200, we're at 230, 240. I think we actually would fit where we can still handle the outside consultants as well as the users and still put together the quarterly meeting. So that is something that we can still look at. And if you want to spearhead that, Beth, now in your new role over there, that might be something that we can look at of kind of combining the 2 virtual groups. We do have enough size based on our averages from last year. Moving forward, Insights this upcoming year, 2022, is May 23rd to the 26th. It is in Nashville, Tennessee this year. Now is the time to start planning, and I believe in about another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they're going to be rolling out the early bird specials and discount for early registrations. That normally comes out in December, so that should be coming out here in a couple weeks. Next thing that we have on the topic for our new business this morning is meeting dates for 2022. Fred, do you have a couple polls put together for these?
Yep, so I'll just punch them up. The first one is for February. You had the dates of February 9th and 16th, correct?
Exactly.
All right, we'll launch that poll and should appear on your screen. So everybody, yep, people have started voting. We'll give it about a minute or so. Just choose what date works best for, and this would be a all of these dates are virtual, correct, Calvin?
Correct. These are all virtual dates for 2022. And based on the numbers of the poll, I'm going to say probably February 16th is going to win because it's almost 70%.
Yep, and we're about 70% voted. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this one. It looks like February 16th wins. Yay. Close that poll, okay. And then our next one is the May meeting. We have 2 dates, May 11th and May 18th. That should appear on your screen now.
And again, 2022, this is going to be our Q2 meeting.
So these dates would be right before Insights.
May 18th is going to be the Wednesday just before Insights begins that weekend. So the early education would be on the Saturday, Sunday, Mondays. And then the conference begins, I think, Monday evening.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this one. May 11th is the date.
Awesome. It stole the election.
All right.
Our next one is going to be the Q3, and that's going to be the August meeting. We have the 10th and the 17th. And again, we try and pick the dates so that we're not competing with month end for the accounting people, because that's very difficult for them to make the meeting when they're trying to close a month or get ready to close a month. So that's why we try to shoot for right in the middle of the month.
If you've got a choice, go ahead and put it in there. Up to 74%. Anybody want to throw their hat in the ring? Now's your chance to control your destiny.
Forget that. Anybody want to do a presentation? If you've got something, trick up your sleeve or something that you've learned to figure out how to make Epicor work better in your environment, by all means. Regarding throwing that hat in the ring, you can also turn around and throw yourself in the ring. We'll draft you for a presentation if you're able to go ahead and share that with the group, what you've already learned or a trick that you were able to pull off in Epicor.
Always looking for presenters, and honestly, hearing from users is the best way people have to learn. So even if you think you're not a great presenter, people are very, very forgiving, and they'd love to hear your story as opposed to just another demonstration by one of us. So, all right, looks like this one's settled down. We're going with August 17th. Go ahead and close that one.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and highlight that. And then our Q4 meeting is going to be the 9th or the 16th. And just so everyone knows, I already checked with the DNR in Wisconsin. Michigan, I couldn't find, but this is 2 days before they swap over from bow to gun hunting for deer season. So we should be in the green that we're not at the edge of one of the change of seasons. I know that was posted actually by 3 people in the comments in the August meeting that, hey, let's make sure that we're not infringing with deer hunting season. We are not. We always make sure of that. Well, at least I double checked it in Wisconsin, but I couldn't double check it in Michigan forever.
Michigan's hunting season starts November the 15th,
Nice. The day before.
a day before.
Let's go ahead and close this one. It looks like November 9th is our winner.
Next one. Back to that, hey, if you've got an idea, go ahead and put that in. You can send that in the chat window. You can email us. There's a whole lot of ways to get that over, and it makes it a lot easier, especially if we don't have to go ahead and draft people like sometimes we end up doing. So I did go out and talk to people and said, hey, what are you willing to do for presentations? What can we offer for people? And Tim Shoemaker, myself, Dylan Anderson, and Jose Gomez all threw their names into the ring and said, hey, here are some topics that I can go ahead and present on. Tim Shoemaker had offered BAQs and CTE BAQs, which is recursive queries. How do I get a bill of materials fully indented out of the system? How do I export the menu security in Epicor so that I can have a security audit that is a recursive query that goes through all the steps and make sure I report all of this down? This was one idea that he had offered doing as a session. If this is something of interest, go ahead and mark that down on the surveys today. What we'll do is we'll go through these surveys at the end and we turn around and bubble them all who requested CTE BAQs. And then we look at how many, and that's how we put the presenters together or try and recruit people to handle during the meetings. Tim also offered to do cycle counting and physical inventory. He said he had some tips and tricks over the years that he's learned to making this go easier. And since Epicor has added the perpetual cycle counting, and I know they're working on doing a bin location cycle counting, I don't believe that's in the current software. These are some tips and tricks that might be good to discuss for people having issues with inventory control. He also offered doing advanced scheduling, not just the basic scheduling, but doing advanced scheduling in Epicor. I threw out there jobs, production management, MRP. job scheduling, just using the base scheduling system. EDI and demand management, I've been working an awful lot with as well over the past 2 years. Dylan Anderson said, hey, I've got some cool stuff. Menu maintenance, how to disable kinetic, how to roll things out, how to roll out customizations in a multi-company that doesn't end up crashing during your upgrade. Just kind of doing a tips and tricks of things that he's learned, helping customers try and get through the migration hurdle and how to handle some of the nuances of doing the upgrades. He's also offered solution management and teaching you how to build solution files when you upgrade your first pass, taking all of what you fixed, putting it into a solution file, and then importing those solution files into the next version during your upgrade process. This also is a great way to share solutions and customizations that you built. BAQs or dashboards can also be shared with other members in the community just by building a solution and then sharing that CAD file that the solution system ended up building. He also talked about doing functions and coding inside functions and teaching people how to use this in the new Kinetic world, which Jinkies, that was identical for Jose Gomez. He's like kinetic customizations, function coding, BAQs and updatable BAQs. I know every once in a while we get a handful of questions that come in for BAQs, and we never know, do you want advanced BAQs? Do you want simple BAQs? Updatable, complex updatable BAQs. Jose also mentioned method and data directives, as well as doing API calls and tokens if you're working with partners like customers or vendors and giving them access into your Epicor data, or building a web service for them to connect in, but making sure that those API calls and tokens expire at the right time, so it's not a definite hole that you're leaving open in your system. Those presentations were offered by the 4 different users. If you're willing to do something or you're able to speak on a topic, by all means, go ahead and put that in your survey. We'll definitely try and either find someone. If you're able to do it, by all means, put that note in your survey. That makes it much easier for us to find somebody to do the presentation. Past requests from 2021, this is going to be kind of a boring yet long area here. The top items, I turned around and pulled those out of the survey questions, and we have not done these. And I also threw in a few ideas just from talking with the other chair people, ideas that we haven't done in recent years, but these were really good things or well received by the community. The first one was getting free money for your business, applying for grant programs, educational grants, federal grants. A lot of these are going out right now to improve your business, increase your user education. And the government is supporting the money for that. Knowing how to get to that money, apply for it and use it as part of your upgrade plan or just continuous improvement, training people how to use Epicor, how to use the equipment on the shop floor. A lot of federal grants are being sent out and local grants to cover education like this in the post or current, towards the end of COVID, we're going to say, process here. I also saw technical questions for pros and cons for the difference between Service Connect, REST, the data management tool, and using business objects. And when do I use one? What's better than the other? And putting together a presentation on that. If more people have an interest in that, go ahead and put these in your surveys. There was also a request on doing bartender versus SQL SSRS reports for barcoding. Epicor has the bartender tie-in, but your SSRS reports in SQL can also do barcoding. Some people believe keeping your reporting system to just one system, not 2 systems, is easier to maintain if you're in IT. Another one was SQL Server performance, troubleshooting, settings, and tuning the environment to get the best performance for your Epicor users out of your SQL Server. This seems to always pop up, but there's never like 20 people that requested. It's only like 2 or 3 people that requested, but yet I have a feeling this is an important topic for everyone. Another one was breaking out a subgroup for discussion of military contractors that have to deal with NIST, CMMC, and ITAR requirements. This is a field that's constantly changing. Every day they're rolling out, hey, we have to add this to it. So the plan is not even 100% there, but yet they're requiring Epicor users and first-tier vendors, hey, you've got to maintain the security. The other one was medical device manufacturers and FDA certification programs. How do I get the software certified? So there were a few people asking for breakouts on this, which is possible. Michael Cromer just talked about, hey, how to upgrade your kinetic version. Michael, that's in today's session today. We have a panel of people that are actually going to be talking about the upgrade to their kinetic version and what were the good, the bad, and the uglies for the process that they did. I'm not even repeating that question out for you, Michael. Another one in past requests was MES and work queues. How do we better improve the shop floor data collection process and make it more timely? We also find people don't even know what work queues are. So just maybe even going through a basic, this is what MES can do, rather than, hey, this is what we customized or this is what we modified to make it work. How do we just use what's currently out there? And that was MES and work queues. Another one was for the case management module, which I believe is now included in the operations core. For current and new customers coming on, they get the case management module, but we have not really done a topic on this. There was also a request last quarter in the user group meeting for a KB Max and product configuration. If other people are looking into this or having issues with product configurator, please put that in your survey comments. We also had 2 requests last quarter for help annotations and the usage of help annotation, which I don't think we've seen that question come up a lot. But if this is of interest for people, it's been in the software for over 20 years, but a lot of people don't utilize it. It's a place where you can go into your help system and put in your own work instructions or your SOPs so that this becomes part of the help system, and as you upgrade, that moves with you. Another one was maintenance management. How to use the maintenance management module. There's always the request for coding examples going above and beyond the basics, but it's very difficult to do a coding type class without having like a real world, what are you looking to accomplish? So coding examples we can put in there for how to add a field, how to connect it to a BAQ, pull data back and display it on the screen, how to link a UD table to your Epicor table, how to connect to Outlook, how to connect to other systems without having a real life request for the coding example. It might be difficult to do. I know Jose, Hasso, Fred, myself, and Dylan have written so many customizations in Epicor. Yes, we have a million of them, but which one do you end up showing because not apply to everybody? So if you do have a request for coding or a coding example, if you can put that into the detail, that makes it much easier for doing a presentation or at least working with you and saying, hey, what's the end goal that you're trying to accomplish? And let's take a look at how we end up building that and then do that as a presentation for the user group. Another one is using the REST services and API in action, not just theory. I know, I want to say it was in the last meeting or the one before we had the API usage, but it was more of a theory, not a hands-on, this is how it works. That might be a good thing to do. How do we connect over to a freight company and transfer data back and forth with a trucking line? Or how do we send data back and forth with a shipping vendor? This might be a good idea for the REST API service calls. Another one, that updatable BAQ with external BPM calls. I wasn't sure how or what the person had meant by with external BPMs or using a updatable BAQ inside an external BPM. I'm thinking it's more probably an external query. So if the person could go ahead and re-request that and put the updated notes of what they were looking for, we can probably get that one covered. Since we have 3 people that are they've already offered to cover that section. There was also a request to improve the quality system knowledge, going through base quality, enhanced quality, inspection plans and calibrations, and then advanced quality. What's the differences between the 3, and then which way do you go based on your needs and how to evaluate that? If this is of interest, I have no problem rolling in an Epicor sales engineer or an Epicor CAM to turn around and introduce us to the different modules, or the product manager for a couple of these areas where they can introduce us to what all does it do. The last couple ones, this one was system administration. An ERP administrator, kind of a day in the life. What do they do? How can we simplify things? What do they utilize to make their day go a little easier? This is actually, I've seen it a few times, but we've never had enough of a push for it, so that's why I'm throwing it out there right now. And the final one was DocStar, or going paperless with your business. How do I go 100% paperless so that people can access documents on a file system rather than needing to pass paperwork around? And I don't think we've had a full going paperless in probably about 4 years now. So this may be a valid topic to bring up again. If any of these requests are of interest to you, by all means, go ahead and put that into your survey or throw it into the chat. We'll definitely go ahead and pull that off, start building this together. We'll put together the list of the topics for next year. There were a couple more here, modifying RDDs. How do I add tables and data to my Epicor-based reports? SSRS, EDD, EDA, and Power BI. And when do I use which of each of those? A very high level. So this one is definitely, I think, a good thing to bring up now. I keep running into a lot of people using Power BI and adding it into their Epicor systems. Another one, Epicor logs, where to find them, how to read them, and the settings to be used to get the best out of the log. This may be a good, but it's going to be a difficult one to do because there's logs for MRP, there's logs for scheduling, there's logs for purchasing, there's logs for financials, there's logs for system activity and users. It's going to, if logs are of importance, we may need to keep it very high level or focus into one area, and then just let's drill into how do we use the MRP logger, how do we use security logs. And the very last one, but it never gets enough of a request, and I wonder if this has already been handled or not, is 1099s and the financial year-end process. Is this something that we should shoot for Q4 next year so that we can have a strong financials in the November meeting and kind of get people prepped and ready for year-end? Or is that something better for the February meeting, the very first meeting of the year, where we can kind of go over what are the year-end processes that people will need to start following and doing in the financial world. That kind of covers all of the past requests that I could kind of put together over the last 4 quarters where we didn't have enough, but yet it's a good idea. I do see a suggestion that just came in here from John Myers, doing a demo of server-side debugging. This is definitely something we'll add into that. If anybody else has that, go ahead and hop on with John's bandwagon here, and we'll see if we can get someone to present that come February. I know we're hitting at 9:30 here. I'm trying to keep myself on time. The next thing that came up was by the user chairs, not necessarily the people, but it's a case of we hear from the people that we're always talking with. We want to go back to FaceTime. We want to go back to some elbow room and moving the meetings. If we are coming up on the end of COVID here and we can start meeting in person, can we do this next year, and what would be a proposed schedule? So I'm going to keep my eyes heavily on the chat here, because the proposition was to do our 4 virtual meetings, our February, May, August, and November, or possibly moving to November to an early December meeting for the virtual, but adding 3 in-person meetings. And now, not everybody is going to be near a local user group, but spinning off some of the smaller groups where people can still get together, still meet in person. I know Iowa, we have a venue. We just need to have restriction lifted so that everybody can get together. But the in-person meetings that were proposed would be middle of May, the middle of July, and the middle of October. And having smaller venues where we can still get together face to face, talk with people, share ideas and experiences, not necessarily having a full 6 or 8 hour day meeting, but just having that face to face time and the camaraderie of working with people and networking and sharing. I'm going to throw this out here for a minute for people to go ahead and throw any questions or comments into the chat, and please be polite on this. Or if this is too many meetings. If this is too many meetings, by all means, go ahead and say, hey, no, I can't do that many in a year. We realize May is still in the end of May. Epicor has kind of kept it there, so it's fairly easy to do. Every once in a while, they do move it to April. Right now, it's in the end of May, so that's why we were shooting for mid-April in person, again, July in person, and October. Any questions or comments about adding 3 more meetings to the year? Brad Bose is looking for at least 1 in-person meeting for the Michigan-Indiana group in 2022.
We'll watch the COVID numbers and see where we're at, whether we can do this safely or not, and whether we can get a venue. Absolutely.
Yep. That was the other thing that we talked about, Beth, was, yes, you need to find a venue also for this. I know our difficulty in Chicago, we ended up using a country club golf place, and they were booked up with weddings. The minute the restrictions dropped, the wedding backlog just went crazy there. You couldn't get a meeting date until kind of the middle towards end of 2022. They were booked solid. So we might have to look at a new venue location for Chicagoland. I was thinking, if anything, move it back over by O'Hare, the Four Seasons, where people can fly in, take the shuttle over to the hotel, and if they want, they can still fly out for the meeting day, but it's also an easy place to drive to because there's so many expressways that converge right now. Joanna Charles says, can we create time in virtual space for a meet and chat? That we kind of have. We can open a 1 hour session or a half-hour session. We normally open the lunch hour here to also the virtual meet, where, hey, everybody, it's kind of a free-for-all over the lunch break. We can all kind of just chat and get together. Another one here from Melody, we could just do a mid and end of year meeting. Instead of doing 3, maybe do 2 a year. Probably not bunch up on the insights meeting. Adding additional meetings would be difficult, but also depend on location. Tim Lester's putting that in. This is definite. We need to also kind of work with some of the local groups, because we've had people, when we went virtual with this, we actually get people into our meetings from Eastern Europe, Australia, and Asia that actually join into this virtual meeting. So having in-person meetings probably in other countries might be a little difficult, since we don't have enough people to kind of put together a local group, but we could definitely work with people to try and do that. We also have a request for John Myers about a hybrid meeting linking in-person venues together, which we actually did try in the past. The drawback that we had was everybody in the video, when you try to put everyone that's in person into the video, they're all super tiny ants by the time you get the camera to look at everybody, that you really can't see anyone on the screen. unless you've got an 80-inch plasma monitor in your office. That was one of the problems that we had in the past, John, was when you back up the camera to get everybody in the virtual meeting into the frame, you can't see the people that are now in the meeting. We also tried in the past where we had just the presenter that was standing at the podium in the in-person meeting in the video camera. But then people were complaining because our person that did the videography would spin the camera around when someone in the audience would ask a question trying to get it. So the people were not as pleased, I would say, with the end presentation that came of it. We didn't really have professional photographers or camera people to do this. It was just one of our users. It was his hobby. So he's like, hey, I'll go ahead and do this and broadcast it and give it a try. We did try doing that, but we hadn't found a way to make it so that the presenter, unless we just focus on the presenter in the in-person meeting and presenting that also in real time or in virtual at the same time. Brenda Higgins made a comment here about being grateful for the remote meetings and recorded sessions. If you can't attend any of the meetings, if you have to duck out during the day going, oh, I really wanted to sit in that after lunch meeting, but I got a fire I got to put out in my plant. I still got my day-to-day work I got to deal with. Perfectly fine. We record each of the sessions and put them up on the YouTube channel for anybody to go back and watch in the future. The only ones we don't do is where a presenter says they can't be recorded. And to date, that has only been the Epicor people, but some of the Epicor people don't have a problem with it. But generally, if they're talking new product development or product managers talking about what they're putting into the software, because of the safe harbor statements and everything, we normally can't record those and put those out there. But yeah, and as John says, smaller groups might work better. It definitely allows for it. And I'm totally fine also if we just put together a bar night for people. It's just a way to get together, network with your peers, and hey, talk about how do you improve? How do you move things forward? It doesn't have to be perfect. Camaraderie is camaraderie. I know Blake just turned on his camera there. Darn, I was going to talk about your 4 o'clock meeting, Blake, since you're one of our presenters later. They have a lovely
I didn't know it was going to show
meeting.
to everybody. Sorry, Calvin.
I was like, you guys have a great 4 o'clock meeting where you get together at the bar some Fridays and spread the ideas. I think this is perfect. And I know 9 times out of 10, at least our old cam that used to be at Epicor, this man had a credit card for a bar tab like there was no tomorrow. So that was pretty fun. That might be an idea also for people that are like less than 10 people. Maybe it's just a bar night get together or, get together at a TGIF. It doesn't have to have a formal venue. For some of the larger groups like Wisconsin, Chicago, I don't think we're going to fit in a bar unless we take over the whole bar. Any other ideas, pros or cons to kind of push towards? I like the idea that Melody said, maybe do just 2 next year. I have a feeling that's all we're going to be able to do. I don't think COVID's going to be lifted by April with the way that we've been trending in Chicago. If the rest of the nation's the way we are, I don't see us being back to it in April, but maybe having the in-person in July or October, we might be able to get by with those 2 meetings next year. At least for the larger venues. If it is a smaller venue, we may have more pull there. If Kalamazoo wanted to get together with 10 people at a bar, I don't think they would turn around and say that, ooh, that's an official venue get together. It could still be low-key get-togethers. If you have any thoughts or comments on that, just go ahead and throw those in. Interesting. Steve Fossey just threw out there, how about a monthly AMA with the first 5 people that sign up, and then we YouTube it. It's a ask me anything type session. I'm going to give that a second if anybody wants to join in on that bandwagon. I don't think we'd have to limit it to 5 people. We could probably still just throw it, hey, the first 20 or 25 that pop in, pop in. But yeah, definitely doing the YouTube it or doing a, hey, once a month we'll have a Stump the Chump for a half hour, 45 minutes. And we have a second to that motion from Joshua. So that was kind of interesting. If And John threw in with that. So a lot of people like that idea there, Steve. So let's go ahead and throw this. If anybody wants in there, go ahead and put that into your survey and we'll try and figure out how we do that and kind of just rotate who the presenters are so it doesn't become too taxing on any one person. I know we all volunteer as chairpersons. This is not our day job. And yes, I will admit, it's become a little more work. When we used to manage a user group meeting with like 50, 60 people, now we're doing 200 to 300. It becomes a little more work to kind of handle that. So doing that on a monthly or a weekly, that might be a little bit rough, but trying to rotate that around and share that with people, that might be an idea that we can still turn around and put together. To that thought also, Stephen, this is going to be a crazy Coda Bears plug, but I got to throw it in there anyway. We do have a lunch and learn program where we do every couple of weeks a lunch presentation on how do you do this in Epicor? How do you handle this? And it's something Coda Bears just puts out there. If you have a topic or something that you want to learn, or hey, I'd love that if you guys would cover this topic. There's nothing wrong with people throwing that at us at Coda Bears, and we'll throw that into the lunch and learn program if it's something that we can do in a half hour, 45 minutes. Now, how do I write an integration with my bank and my financial institutions? Yeah, that may not be a 45-minute solution, but how do I collect labor notes out on the shop floor when people are just reporting quantities? Maybe that's something that we throw into there and do that as a lunch and learn. And then that allows Fred kind of chime in here. I don't know what our head count limit is on the lunch and learn.
Crud, they keep increasing it.
I know it used to be 25, but I think we're higher now.
I think it's somewhere in the 100 or 200 range now.
So that might be an idea then, Steve, if people just want to throw that, we'll do that as a lunch and learn. We don't charge people for it. It's just something where we turn around and build a knowledge base and throw that out on the YouTube channel after the presentation's done. If anybody thinks of things or ideas, this is the venue for you guys to talk up and say, hey, this is what we want. I don't want to run it as a dictatorship. I've talked with Christine, with Beth, with Fred, with Bruce. I'm like, we've talked with the other chairs, and like, getting ideas from people is generally a difficult thing. If you guys have an idea or a request, I would say sky's the limit. Go ahead and throw it out there. If we can handle it, we'll definitely add it into the agenda. Speaking of shameless plugs, I'm going to go out and give everybody an Attaboy Award or an Attagirl Award. We have our chairperson, Christine Fierce, here today from the Iowa chair. She's over at Ag Leader. Yes. Beth Rye is over here. She's now over at Perlick. She's our Michigan, Indiana chairperson. We've already heard from both of them. Heather Hond is over at Wyland. She's the co-chair down in Michigan, Indiana. I've got Bruce Larson, who's in the meeting today. He's our Minnesota chairperson. He's up at Larson Solutions up in Minneapolis area. Myself, Galvin Decker over at Coda Bears. Michael Cromer has chimed in. I think he was our first chat window. He's over at Hamel out in Western Pennsylvania area. And I believe Jennifer Curley, I didn't scroll through the list. I left her a voicemail last night, but I don't know if she's on the meeting or not yet. She's out in Southern California. Nope,
She is in the list.
I'm like, okay, check it real quick. She's over at Surefire, but they're down in Southern California. They had difficulties putting together user group meetings down there because the traffic is so bad in Southern California. Yeah, you really can't drive to get to the meetings if you're 3 hours away, and that can just be a couple towns over. Okay, it looks like Jennifer Curley is on. Yes, okay. She's down in Orange County, California, but that's our last chairperson that I have on here. If you are looking to start a group in your area, by all means, let me know. I would love to put you in touch with other customers or Epicor users inside your area so that, yes, you can turn around and say, hey, let's all get together at TGI's, or let's get together at the local pub and meet and chat. Or VFW is, I want to say, area that we also try getting together. I've seen people meet at libraries. So there's a lot of venues that have free locations for small gatherings to get together. It's just a case of putting you in touch with the people that are over there. We've worked with the EUG, we've worked with Epicor CAMs, and I hate to say it, we'll take the CodaBears database of customers and we'll turn around and let you know who all's over in that area that are Epicor users and try and build a camaraderie that's local and people can get elbow to elbow and have a chat together. Today for the meeting, I know I've got a few minutes here, so I'm just going to kind of wrap this up. Our presenters for today, also pat on the back for these people. The Kinetic Upgrade Panel, we have Blake, who just popped in with a video from AY McDonald, Justin Roatman from Scranton Manufacturing, and Brad Bose from Service Steel. They're going to share their upgrade woes and tribulations and cheers. Brad's also on the Minnesota, Indiana team. Yahoo! Thanks, Beth. Didn't know that. I'll get him updated. They're going to share the Kinetic experience of what did they take, what did they do, how did they get there, and what was the good, the bad, and the ugly about getting to Kinetic. And they're just going to do a little presentation for us, going to show us what was good, what was bad, and go over the pros and cons. And they're also going to have a kind of field question where people can turn around and throw questions at them, and we'll try and get some answers of, hey, what's it like running a company now on Kinetic? The next topic is going to be the advanced units of measure and utilizing them. Brad Bose is going to be doing this session. He's over at Service Steel and also the Michigan Indiana co-chair. After that, we'll also have BAQs and subqueries. Graham Ross from AEP, Advanced Engineer Products, is going to be doing BAQs and how to use subqueries in BAQs. Followed by that is going to be Jim Fry from SourceDay. He's going to go over supply chain issues and the AP invoice automation and workflows that they offer. And why is this an issue nowadays? Because nobody has supply chain problems. So I asked him to kind of come in and do a presentation on what are they seeing and how are people getting through some of these supply chain, because I'm finding customers that are going through 2-month shutdowns of departments because they can't get product put through. They can't get product in to make their product to send it out. How are they dealing with these supply chain nightmares? Not everybody can fly their Thai beanie babies directly to the warehouse, as I saw in the news the other day. And like always, we have our closing session, our Stump the Chump session. All of the presenters from the earlier topics are going to be in the Stump the Chump session. In addition to that, we're going to have Michael Gross from Ashworth, Paso Carrick from UFPI, Jose Gomez is going to be popping in from Stephen Gold, and then we'll have the CodaBears host, Fred, Dylan, and myself. So without any other ado, I think we've got about a 10-minute break here, and then we can go ahead and break into our Kinetic Upgrade panel.